Life for All presents Daily Food Series, The Gospel of John, Word, Life, and Edification. Part 2. Title of Book 6, Resurrection, A New Day, A New Beginning, by Pedro. Week 1. Jesus is unjustly arrested and judged. Thursday, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Read with prayer. So Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?" John chapter 18, verse 11. The account in chapter 18 of John begins like this. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over the brook of Kidron, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Verse 1. They went to a garden on the other side of the Kidron, the brook situated in a depression between the Mount of Olives and the Temple Mount. At the foot of the Mount of Olives was the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was betrayed and arrested. Jesus, while eating dinner with the disciples, revealed that Judas was the traitor. John chapter 13, verses 1 and 2, and verses 29 and 30. Then the traitor left and met the chief priests to lead the soldiers to where Jesus was. After he spoke to his disciples, Jesus said, "Arise, let us go from here." Chapter 14, verse 31b. They then went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and Judas went there with the soldiers to arrest him. Chapter 18, verses 2 and 3. The Gospel of John describes what happened the night Jesus was betrayed. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, "Whom are you seeking?" And they answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said to them, "I am he." And Judas, who betrayed him, also stood with them. Now, when he had said to them, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Then he asked them again, "Who are you seeking?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." He answered, "I have told you that I am he. Therefore, if you seek me, let these go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled which he spoke. Of those whom you gave me, I have lost none. Chapter 18, verses 4 through 9. Here it is written, "I am." Jesus actually uttered the name of God, "I am," as if he were saying to the soldiers, "I am he who exists from eternity to eternity. I am he who is, and who was, and who is to come." This highlights that Jesus is God, the I am, existence itself. The soldiers then retreated and fell to the ground because Jesus pronounced the name of God. In addition to making the divinity of the Lord Jesus explicit, we can also see his elevated humanity. Even knowing that the intention of the chief priests was to arrest all his disciples, the Lord interceded for them. Even suffering the betrayal of Judas and the intimidation of the soldiers, Jesus still cared about his disciples. The Gospel of John continues. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. So Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?" Chapter 18, verses 10 and 11. In other words, Jesus was saying, in fact, I am here voluntarily, because if I did not want to, no one would be able to arrest me, and no one would take my life. I am here to do the will of the Father, to drink the cup that the Father gave me. On another occasion, Jesus had clarified, "Therefore my Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I may take it again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This command I have received from my Father." John chapter 10, verses 17 and 18. In other words, the Father had given him authority over his life, and he could decide whether to hand it over or not. If he did not want to, no one could take it from him, even with all the military apparatus. If Jesus did not want to, the soldiers would not be able to take him. Luke also recorded the same episode in his gospel, and one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered and said, "Permit even this." And he touched his ear and healed him. Chapter 22, verses 50 and 51. In the Gospel of Matthew, the arrest of Jesus is recorded as follows. "And while he was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now his betrayer had given them a sign, saying, 'Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him.' Immediately he approached Jesus and said, 'Greetings, Rabbi,' and he kissed him. But Jesus said to him, 'Friend, why have you come?' Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And suddenly one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword, struck the servant of the high priest, and cut off his ear. But Jesus said to him, 'Put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the Scriptures be fulfilled, that it must happen thus?' In that hour Jesus said to the multitudes, 'Have you come out against a robber with swords and clubs to take me? I sat daily with you, teaching in the temple, and you did not seize me. But all this was done that the Scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled.'" Matthew 26, verses 47 through 56. The soldiers came to arrest Jesus as if he were a bandit. But Jesus told them that they would only take him because he was surrendering. For if he asked, the Father would send more than 12 legions of angels to defend him. A legion of soldiers in the Roman army was made up of 6,000 men. So 12 legions totaled 72,000 angels. God created millions and millions of angels. Even though a third of the angels followed Satan, there are still 2/3 who are in the service of God. Many things do not happen to us because God orders his angels to camp around us to protect us. That is why we do not need to be afraid. God has millions of angels at his service and at the service of those who will inherit salvation. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14. God could send 72,000 angels to defend Jesus, but for the Scriptures to be fulfilled, the Lord would have to die. While Jesus was speaking to the mob that was arresting him, the disciples fled. To understand this attitude, we must understand what the atmosphere was like that night. Note 11 of Matthew 26 in the Portuguese King James Version Atualizada explains that the Roman soldiers, added to the guards serving the Sanhedrin, totaled approximately 500 men. The guards were like today's police officers, responsible for maintaining public peace. Roman soldiers, in turn, were part of the army. Suddenly, 500 men appeared in a garden, probably a small place, with torches, lanterns, clubs, and swords. What an intimidating environment. What a terrifying moment that must have been. Write the sentence that touched your heart the most. Highlight the key points in this sentence. Pray according to the content highlighted above.